恍恍惚惚，已经可是一般无法说。
This is yet another tragedy triggered by bride price. This time, the main characters are a couple who were about to enter the hall of marriage, and the woman seemed to already be pregnant. However, just before the wedding, the woman's parents suddenly requested an additional 300,000 yuan in bride price. Their reason was that this would not only test the sincerity of the man's family, but also provide a form of security for their daughter. But, naturally, the man's family was unwilling to accept such a demand, as 300,000 yuan is no small amount, equivalent to approximately 42,210 US dollars. This is an amount that most ordinary families in China cannot easily come up with. If this money were to be raised, most families would need to borrow externally, even going into debt. The man's parents considered this demand too harsh, and the man himself felt that the woman's family's request was unreasonable, especially as the attitude of the woman's parents made him feel afraid. So he proposed to break up. This made the woman very dissatisfied. She tried to communicate with her parents, but failed to change their stance. She then attempted to win back the man's feelings, but the man had already decided to part ways. In desperation, the woman impulsively chose to jump into a river to end her life. However, luckily, a passerby appeared in time and saved her. After the incident spread, the relatives of both the man and woman held discussions. The woman's parents ultimately expressed their willingness to forego the bride price demand. After mediation, the couple reconciled and went on a trip together to relax. From this event, it's clear that high bride prices are not solely the responsibility of the woman. Often, it is the parents' demands behind it. Indeed, in society, there are parents who have daughters and think that when their daughter marries, she can bring them a substantial bride price. This thinking is influenced by traditional beliefs, such as the notion that a married daughter is like water thrown out, meaning that once a daughter is married, she will serve her husband's family, thus making it justifiable to demand a high bride price. Many parents of daughters really have flawed values. In the old society, bride prices were understood as a form of compensation for wealthy people who took in concubines. A daughter could not return to her family after marriage, so it was somewhat understandable for the family to request some compensation for raising her. However, modern society is no longer like those days. A daughter can return to her family at any time, even after marriage, and if divorced, she can still receive support from her family. Thus, the notion of water thrown out is outdated and should not continue to be applied. However, nowadays, it seems that society is becoming increasingly money-oriented, and people are using any means necessary for financial gain. Whether it's issues of food safety or the commercialization of schools and hospitals, these phenomena reflect this value system. Consequently, many parents with daughters start thinking about marrying their daughter for a bride price, leading to such incidents becoming common. In this social atmosphere, can we, as ordinary people, change the status quo? It is probably not easy. Therefore, as men, when choosing a marriage partner, they should not only look at the woman's qualities, but also consider whether her parents' values are correct. If the woman's parents have poor character, then no matter how excellent the woman is, it may affect the happiness after marriage. Because marriage is not only the union of two individuals, but also the fusion of two families. It's not hard to see examples like this in real life. Some men's marriages encounter problems not because of their wives, but due to their mothers-in-law repeatedly interfering in family matters, eventually leading to divorce. Therefore, brothers, when choosing a marriage partner, be sure to consider the values and character of her parents, as the happiness of marriage is closely related to the family atmosphere. So, friends watching, do you agree with this viewpoint? Let's discuss it together.
一定要远离这种人，姐妹们，就算这个人他是咱的亲爹亲妈也不行。
Sisters, we must be vigilant and stay away from people like this. Whether they are our parents or not, if they're this type of person, getting close to them is the beginning of disaster. The closer you get, the more misfortune you attract, and if you don't distance yourself, you'll be stuck in a cycle of bad luck for life. Recently, I saw a piece of news related to bride price. I have always advocated for bride price for girls, believing that it is a form of security for marriage. But this case has made me furious, even disgusted, because this couple's marriage had been agreed upon and the bride price had been set. However, right before the wedding, the bride's parents suddenly demanded an additional 300,000 yuan in bride price. Their reason was to test the sincerity of the groom's family, yet this decision was made without the daughter's consent or any negotiation. It showed a complete lack of integrity. Such parents are simply the bane of their children. Sisters, listen to me. While I have always supported bride price, it must be approached with the right mindset. For parents like these, the problem isn't the bride price itself, it's their lack of integrity. They initially agreed on an amount, only to suddenly demand an additional 300,000 yuan afterward, despite the daughter not agreeing to this increase. But her father neither respects his daughter's opinion nor considers her future. The outcome is that, eventually, their daughter attempted to jump into a river to end her life. Although she was later rescued by passers-by, it will surely leave her with deep psychological scars. This kind of sudden change not only shows a lack of integrity but could also cause the daughter to be mistreated or looked down upon by her in-laws, facing ridicule behind her back. How can she live such a life? Parents like these are practically scoundrels, not only failing to think of their child's well-being but also becoming obstacles to their daughter's happiness. What's even more disturbing, in my opinion, is that this additional 300,000 yuan likely wouldn't even be used for the daughter. It would go to her parents to buy a house for her brothers or improve their own lives, rather than securing her happiness. This mindset is truly concerning. Parents, under the guise of caring for their daughter, are actually draining her, robbing her of her good fortune. Sisters, we must stay away from people like this. If someone keeps doing things that make you uncomfortable in the name of love, then this kind of love will only drain you and cause you suffering. We need to be vigilant, especially with those who lack integrity, who change their demands on a whim and don't keep their word. Such people bring no benefit to you. If you get close to them, your future life will be full of pain, even if they are your own parents. Believe me, only by staying away from people like this can you avoid unnecessary suffering.
你知道结婚要高价彩礼的这些人一般都是什么人吗？
Do you know the usual situation for those who demand high bride prices through marriage? First, it's certain that most of these people don't have any particular talents. Their parents lack abilities, and the woman herself is also not particularly capable. Not only does she lack skills, but she's also made the worst mistake a woman can make. She lacks self-confidence. Why do I say that? Just think about it. If someone truly has strength, they wouldn't place so much importance on money. Instead, they would be full of confidence in themselves and their future. Isn't that logical? Some parents even hope to get rich through their daughter's bride price. This kind of thinking is nothing short of wishful thinking. I can tell you that the true foundation of marriage always depends on the character of both people and their compatibility, right? First, we should look at whether the two are suitable, such as if their family backgrounds and values align. If they're truly compatible, then they can discuss the bride price. In such cases, because the two families are well matched, the bride price amount will likely satisfy both parties. The bride price simply becomes an expression of the groom's respect. Wealthier families can give a bit more, while families with modest means can give a bit less, without negatively affecting the relationship. Instead, the bride price becomes a symbol that adds a nice touch, doesn't it? But look at the current situation. Some people make the bride price the primary condition. They say, we want 300,000 yuan for the bride price, not a penny less. 300,000 yuan, not only in rural areas but even in big cities, that's a huge amount, right? Generally speaking, if bride price is placed above feelings from the start, this marriage is likely to encounter various problems after marriage, becoming chaotic. Why? Because fundamentally, such a marriage is more like a transaction. A man spends a large sum, which is essentially buying out the woman's future life. Some mothers-in-law may not like to hear this, but this is the reality. So, should bride prices be given at all? Of course, because bride prices have a history of more than 5,000 years in Chinese tradition. However, as for how much should be given, there shouldn't be a fixed standard. As long as it's within the acceptable range of both families, a moderate amount is fine. Don't you think that makes sense?
如果未来我的儿媳妇家跟我谈索要彩礼
If my future daughter-in-law's family demands a specific amount of bride price before they agree to marry off their daughter, I would directly refuse. If they're unwilling to marry, then forget it. Let them find someone else. I understand my son's character. He definitely wouldn't accept such a demand either. Keep in mind, it's the woman's family asking us for a bride price, not me proactively offering it. If they don't ask for it, I would naturally give a bride price voluntarily, according to their local customs, whether in Changsha, Heilongjiang, or even abroad. I would respect their traditions and give an appropriate amount. However, once they start demanding it, I feel there's no need to continue the relationship, because, in my view, this kind of demand reflects a lack of class in their family, and the act of asking for a bride price is quite off-putting. Just think about it. Why should I give a large sum of money to the parents just because their daughter is marrying into our family? Doesn't that feel like they're selling their daughter? In the old days, the bride price existed because communication wasn't as accessible. Once a girl married into her husband's family, she became their labor force and almost lost all contact with her own family. Therefore, her family, having raised her until she was 18, was sending her off as labor to her husband's family, so it made sense to ask for a bride price as compensation. However, today's society is different, and the meaning of bride price and dowry has changed. Now the bride price and dowry are more like startup funds that parents provide for the newly established family. To be honest, this money ultimately goes back to the small family, supporting the couple's life together. Dowries are the same. They're not given to the husband's family, but serve as the economic foundation for the new household, helping young couples through financially challenging times. If both families are willing to contribute financially to the new life of the children, such as the woman's family providing 200,000 yuan and our family being in a better position, providing 800,000 yuan, then we are all working together for the children's future, as startup capital for their lives, and to help them raise the next generation. This is the positive significance of bride price. However, if the bride price I provide is only to fill the pockets of her parents, and they even plan to save this money for their son's future bride price, then it becomes entirely meaningless. The relationship between in-laws is especially important, as it's an important familial bond that lasts a lifetime. If I already have a bad impression of the other family, and can't see eye to eye with them, then why force a connection as in-laws? A family that focuses solely on securing a high bride price by marrying off their daughter is ultimately showing a lack of confidence and deep-seated insecurity. Such a family that hopes to improve their financial situation, buy a car, or upgrade their home by marrying off their daughter is truly distasteful. Encountering such a family, even if their daughter were to marry into our family for free, I would still refuse.
我以前非常的不理解为什么大家都在骂彩礼。
I used to not understand why so many people condemn bride prices. To me, families with good financial conditions can pay the bride price easily and naturally, while families receiving it can accept it with peace of mind. However, most of the criticisms against bride prices come from grassroots people, and their objections seem to lack reasonable grounds. I believe that grassroots girls, when entering marriage, already have to bear considerable responsibilities and risks, especially during childbearing. If both families have average conditions and incomes, and the character of the partner cannot be fully assured, then I think it's reasonable to accept a bride price as a maternity security fund and emergency fund. After all, during the childbearing period, if the other party's character turns out to be poor and they can't support the child, I can use this money to support myself and the child, ensuring that I have some security when I'm most helpless. Every girl should be responsible for her own child, and there's nothing wrong with that. Besides, a girl puts in so much physically, time-wise, and emotionally during childbearing, it's only fair that the man provides some monetary compensation. However, I later realized that my previous thoughts were overly simplistic. Many people criticize bride prices not just because of the bride price itself. My thinking was naive, as many girls do not keep the bride price for themselves, but hand it directly over to their natal family. The natal family might then use this money to marry off their sons. This means that while it appears the girl is asking for a bride price, she's actually asking on behalf of her brothers. As a result, when the girl marries into her in-laws' family, the in-laws feel, I paid a high bride price, so it's only natural for you to have children and do housework here. But the girl gave the bride price to her natal family, and her natal family also feels, I raised you, so what's wrong with you giving me money in return? In this way, neither the in-laws nor the natal family truly cares about the girl's interests. Recently, the issue of bride prices has even been regulated, with some places capping the bride price amount, no longer allowing exorbitant bride prices to be demanded. This policy also limits grassroots girls who wanted to use the bride price as maternity security. These measures force us girls to rethink, is marriage really something to rely on? From childhood, we are taught that when girls grow up, they just need to get married, and the husband will be responsible, and the in-laws will take care of everything. But the reality is that neither the in-laws nor the natal family can be relied on. When a girl grows up, she could end up with nothing. Relying on oneself is the only true foundation. I've noticed that when boys grow up, few are expected to become independent men who don't rely on their parents to buy a car, buy a house, or provide a bride price. But if a girl relies even slightly on her parents, even just asking her parents to buy some fruit, she'll be ridiculed. We need to reflect, in fighting for our rights, we must not give up our autonomy. Working may be tough, but it's the autonomy we control, our weapon, and our bargaining chip. Even if work involves criticism and low spirits, at least after enduring, we can get paid. But if we don't work, the grievances we'll suffer from the in-laws will bring no return. The difference between social labor and being a housewife is that one is paid, and the other is unrecognized, and may even be criticized as not doing enough. Work has rules and regulations, but household chores are set by others' arbitrary standards. You can change jobs if dissatisfied, but you can't change families easily. Therefore, I want to tell the girls that bride prices in marriage are not guarantees but often bring suffering. For us girls, the best choice before having sufficient capability is to enhance our own strength, increase our bargaining chips, and then consider whether to enter marriage. Arguing back and forth with those who dispute bride prices is pointless, it's just a waste of time. Those men vent only their impotent anger, and once married, they would only bring suffering to the girls, unwilling to take responsibility yet wanting an unconditionally giving wife. Marrying such people would be a dreadful thing. Let them criticize bride prices as they wish. We, as sisters, should focus on working well and ignore them. If we can't provoke them, we can avoid them, eliminating them from our lives.
The high bride prices in China today clearly reflect a conflict between traditional customs and modern values. Let's first discuss why Chinese marriages require bride prices. First, this custom originates from ancient Chinese culture, especially the tradition of 6 etiquettes in marriage. What are the 6 etiquettes? They refer to 6 essential steps in the process from engagement to marriage. The first step is natsai, where the groom's family invites a matchmaker to the bride's home to propose. If the bride's family agrees, the groom's family can start preparing the betrothal gifts. The second step is called Wenming, where the groom's family sends the matchmaker to inquire about the bride's name, date of birth, and other details to verify her identity. The third step is Naji, where, after obtaining the bride's name and date of birth, the groom's family goes to the ancestral temple for divination to see if the two are compatible. The fourth step is Najing. What does this mean? It's the step where, if both parties agree to the marriage, the groom prepares the betrothal gifts and sends them to the bride's family. At this stage, the groom formally presents the gifts, symbolizing the completion of the marriage contract. The fifth step is called Qingqi, where the groom sets the wedding date, prepares the necessary gifts, and seeks the bride's consent. The final step is Inqin, where a day or two before the wedding, the bride's dowry is sent to the groom's home, and the groom then goes to the bride's family to escort her. The bride price originates from the fourth step, Najin, where the groom expresses his sincerity by giving betrothal gifts to the bride's family. Why were there so many complicated steps in marriage in ancient China? In ancient Chinese society, when a woman married, she would leave her original family and become part of her husband's family, taking on the responsibilities of household chores and childbearing. Therefore, the bride price was, in a way, considered economic compensation to the bride's family for the loss of a laborer. It also demonstrated the groom's family's sincerity and capability. Bride prices were not only a form of respect and gratitude toward the bride, but could also serve as financial security for her future life. Especially in the past, if a woman divorced, remarrying would be extremely difficult. Thus, the bride price could serve as financial support, providing a safeguard for women if the marriage broke down. However, as Chinese society has developed, the concept of the bride price has gradually evolved, and in some cases, even deteriorated. High bride prices have increasingly become obstacles to marriage in modern society. Many young couples are forced to break up because they cannot afford or accept these high bride prices. This phenomenon, in fact, highlights the irony in contemporary views on marriage. Nowadays, some grooms' families go so far as to borrow money, take out loans, or even sell their houses to gather the bride price. Such actions are, in reality, misguided and contrary to the core values of modern society. In the end, I believe that marriage is about building a life together as a couple. Living a good life together is what matters most, and there's no need to dwell too much on the issue of the bride price. How do you feel about the sky-high bride prices in China? Feel free to leave your comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to our channel. Your support means a lot to us, and we'll continue bringing you better content. Thank you again for watching, and see you next time.